Buongiorno, John Borno. Hi, how are you, lot? Lovely people of the internet.
Hola, kids.
Make yourself heard. Crazy Redcoat, hello, Dan Lee, evening. Manda's there. Lorna,
You
I
were
see
put my
you.
glasses, I would
No need to
squint.
shout. Yes, staying hydrated, very good point.
Pink juice.
Hold on a second.
Hang on. So my choices are I put my glasses on and then I don't have to squint, but I have to be about 2 foot further back. Or I take my glasses off so I can sit closer, then I have to spend all my time squinting away.
Well, what doesn't hurt that as much? I think with a good mic you can comfortably lean back.
No, this one falls off very badly whenever you lean away from it.
Oh yeah, I hear what you mean.
Yeah. This is why we always look like we're filleting them on the weekender.
Yes.
Do you have to be this close or it just goes?
Yeah. Starting. First off, Gen Con is Gen Con this year, as we all know. Lucky coincidence, I'm having my holiday this year at the time FFG is streaming their stuff from Gen Con. Problem is, that's about 2 a.m. German time, 1 a.m. British Standard Time.
And it's like midweek as well. They've decided
it's from Wednesday to Tuesday.
Yeah.
Other way around, Tuesday to Wednesday.
Whatever it is, it's appalling to appalling.
And it was a Thursday. Thursday was after potential GOG radio that way. So 29 to 30th of July.
Oh, there you go. That's not too bad.
So I'm planning on doing a sort of reaction stream if anyone is eager to join, either as a passive participant or active. Let me know. Give me a hint, a mail or a private message.
I'll have to see how I'm feeling.
That wasn't really meant to be anything. I think everybody sees you as an excuse because you have important things to do on that day.
Right.
What's
that then?
Wasn't that the day your mother usually?
Oh yes. Well, that's the Wednesday.
So it's a Wednesday to Thursday, and I'm just getting my weekdays wrong again.
But it wouldn't make a difference. You would be sitting
not.
there at 1 a.m.
So there, if anybody has slight interest, here's the link of the forum post. If you want, I'm all ears. If not, I'm there anyway. Next up, a Kickstarter project that has popped up in my feed and may be of interest to some of you. 28mm metal sci-fi dwarf miner warriors and their enemies. If you're like me thinking squats, I think they're squats. It's by a chap called Edward Spetticue, who has done 7 Kickstarters prior, and they're all rather successfully, and more importantly, they all got fulfilled.
That is the important part.
So if any of you have any interest in squats or classic metal minis, give this one a look. It's a very fresh one. I think it's just 2 days old or something like it. And he has already done a lot of minis. Squats with rifles, squat with handguns, with laser guns. The only thing that's missing are squats on trikes.
I'm sure they're probably coming.
And they're already cast in squad snipers. So little tiny halfling-like types.
Better than halflings. Because they're not halflings.
Yeah, and the aliens look a bit weird, to be honest, with these strange arms, but they're something different.
It's very similar shape that the old ambles used to have.
True.
It's very or even it's very Doctor Who Monster of the Week feel. There's a man inside a rubbery suit with giant extendo arms that can't grip anything, and he'll flail about and backhand people into wobbly wall sets, which is what you want to see.
Tripping over his own tail.
That type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, patrol miners, alien squad unlocked, so I have failed to look what has already been. There's a lot of stuff in here.
Crabs. I like crabs.
So this is already at 890 euros of 2,600 asked, but 23 days remain. May give it a look-see. And
yeah, 3 weeks to go when he's a third of the way there.
We watched. I had a spontaneous "I need these" urge, and yeah, you weren't there. You didn't talk me into it, so it's totally on me. I can't blame anybody but myself. And we are currently. Let's refresh this one.
Are you hoping it will go up if you refresh it?
I certainly do, but no, it doesn't. So it's still 44 euros short, which makes two people.
So close.
And I'm quite confident this will get funded. And if not, I'm not having anything to paint anymore besides Legions of Legion.
Just saying.
Yes, I've seen the, what was it called again?
Dreamstone.
I can remember that was some translated version was on German television too, but it never really caught me.
Weirdly, from having read a lot of the comments and stuff recently on that and on his face page and that sort of thing, the only way to get your hands on the Dreamstone before they uploaded it all onto YouTube was via Germany, because there was a DVD release in Germany.
Yeah, funny thing is...
Not in the UK, where it came from, but in Germany it was there.
Funny thing is, most things that are shown on German television have a very weird way of distributing rights. That's and often that goes hand in hand with publishing rights. And boy, do the people who buy these rights milk them for any penny they can. So they shove out a big pile of cheaply produced DVDs and call it a day.
It's not German, it's the Dutch. But the only reason I have a copy or two copies of the BBC Ivanhoe on
Is that
DVD.
The black and white?
No, they did a TV series in the early 90s, like a 6-part mini serial. Oh. And it was great. BBC put it out. I got it on video in the days when video was a thing. And then years later, they released it obviously on DVD, but only in the Netherlands. So if you go to buy it, what you're actually buying looks like it's a BBC VHS copy ripped onto DVD and then sold by them. You go, this is so surreal, but I want that show, so send it to me. And then I thought Sam from the studio, I lent it to him because he kept banging on about how he was a huge fan of Christopher Lee and stuff like that. I'm going, Christopher Lee's in this, fantastic, it's a brilliant show. And they borrowed it for like 6-7 months, never watched it. And I was like, well, I really want that back. It's like, I don't know, it's in the office somewhere. And then there was like more sort of, and eventually it's like, I'm not getting this back. So I bought a new copy. And then 2 weeks later, or thereabouts, lo and behold, Lloyd goes, what's this? Well, that is mine. But, you know, c'est la vie. Anyway.
Reminds me of the first Akira DVD release, which was basically a one-to-one copy from the Laserdisc.
Nice.
Including the very cheap
halfway
menu.
Through to flip over?
Pardon?
Where did it stop halfway through to flip over?
No, luckily not. They must have used a auto flip player of sorts. So...
Too flash for me.
After all these pre-flight things, we have our first project, which I looked at last week, but only briefly.
Did you see? I haven't had a chance to go through it all last week's show yet, because I don't care about the show when I'm not on it.
It's not by our Lloyd, but by our Lloyd.
That's true, yes.
It's the Caverns Deep one-page rule book, and as I have been told by the Alloyd himself, it's one page because it fits on one page, and it's not one page in the PDF.
No, there's about 6 or 7 pages in the PDF. But there was an update on Monday, which is why we've now got this fantastic beta version 0.2, which looks very different than previous versions, you'll agree.
Yes.
It's got a cover now. My particular favorite part of the cover is if you look at the top part, not the bottom one with all the words on it, but the cover.
Yes.
And it says there, apart from their copyright, written by, illustrations by, I put it to you that in any of the pages I've seen so far, there are no illustrations.
I was
so
just about
I
to
demand
ask,
illustrations.
Is a maybe he went on to mean the visual construction of the pages.
The layout? No. I'm pretty sure there are illustrations coming, and we'll all be waiting with bated breath. But if people seen the show last week, then you've already touched on it, or you may have seen it on the XLBS because he got a community spotlight for his time and effort. But it's interesting little 1 page / 6 pages of rules, depending on whether you're looking at the cheat sheet or the alpha.
To be honest, I only glanced at it, but anybody who does such a project on this scale and with this potential has my
and I mean if you click into either of the alpha versions, it doesn't really matter. See the little PDF Caverns Deep clicky bit? There you go. You can see what they've got in there, because there is more than the 1 page is just an aid memoir for when you're playing, really, because you've got a character generation with different skills, and then a brief explanation of how you can stat up your beginning group. And you go, well, you can have like 3 skills at 1 and 2 skills at 2, and no skill can be more than 3, and you can really just let people stat their stuff up whatever way they want. So it really does lean on the role-playing side of things. It goes through, performing actions and how you use the different traits and setting up a camp and all of these sort of bits and bobs. So there's a lot of thought in it. It isn't just one A4 on its side. Up to and including the last couple of pages are things like monsters, and then monster generation, and how to stat up your encounters for your group. So obviously it's aimed at either new players or kids, where it's very light on mechanics, because you don't want it to be that heavy.
I must say I really like the design. It's more easily screen readable than the usual black
on white.
White. It's maybe not very good for printing to have as a physical copy, but
well, as he gets closer to being completed, we can tell him to do a printer-friendly version where he just
that
flips
would be very much appreciated. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
I also quite like the relics and heirlooms coming soon, brackets hopefully. So anybody who feels like commenting on what would make good relics and heirlooms based on his mechanics in there, feel free, go nuts, because there's no comments in there already about that. So my particular favorite was Sword of Disintegration. I had a group where there was a particularly vocal member who talked over everybody, including the new people in the group, so nobody could get anything done. And so they found as a piece of loot a Sword of Disintegration, and the first time he used it in combat, the blade disintegrated, so it's just left holding hilt, and then he got killed.
That's nice. We had a magazine a few years back from a club that's not alive anymore. There was an official role-playing club of Germany. It sort of weirdly translates. And there was one page in this magazine called Gnorkel's Gimmicks, and that was role-playing things that make sense on first glance, but then go really boo-high. And there was one item especially I loved, that was the Labertasche. Labertasche is a German word for somebody who really likes to talk.
Right.
So, but it's composed of Laber, which means meaning this talking, and Tasche, which is a bag. And it was basically a carrying bag with infinite carrying capacity. So you could put anything in it.
Like a bag of holding.
Yeah, the problem is this thing really talked 24 hours a day.
All right, so it wasn't just when you opened it.
No,
Because I can
all the
imagine
time.
trying to sneak about.
So nothing for anybody sneaky. So the potential, the most anybody who would have gone out of it would be a thief. But since that thing was talking and jabbering all the time, well,
Completely useless.
yeah,
I love that.
it had a nice twist. Somewhere I still have all these magazines. I need to get these characters together because Knorkel's gimmicks was a laugh.
Irish Roleplay Society used to print a little magazine called Psychobabble, and it would be given away free in gaming stores, essentially. And I don't know what happened to my copies. I only had 4 of them, but they were the same sort of thing, essentially little A5 fanzines that contained maybe interesting articles or, scenario you could run your game, or cartoons, or just something they'd put together every couple of months and then just fire out there. Yeah. That's the old days.
Nobody makes them now anymore. But back on subject, Kevin Steep, a player book currently in the making. Definitely worth a watch, and if you have any creative energy other than I have, pour some ideas towards him. Maybe we'll get a finished product from this.
Yes.
Of sorts.
That's what we want.
The next is a project I had on my watch list. I don't know why, because there was nothing in it.
There was stuff in it.
Did she delete it?
I think it was deleted, assuming this isn't just a new one started again.
Yeah, I was watching
with the same name.
I took a look into what I had on watch, and I wouldn't put a follow on an empty project. So I'm guessing there had been content that has been deleted.
Although I don't think you can delete things, because people are forever complaining about double posting stuff. So
weird. So this is by Kalian Diaz.
Helena. Some people will know her from boot camps. Helena and Stu. In fact, they came over to renew their vows last year. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that was... wasn't that some Joker?
Yes.
I had... So as I understood this project, you gave her a dragon.
I give her one of the limited edition dragons from who knows where. I've lost the black. There should be a little brass plaque that sits at its front forepaw.
I think she has reorganized the...
No, I did that.
Oh, you did that.
I've done it with some of them, but not all. But I knew we hadn't looked at this one.
So this is the first picture, which is only showing a bit of a broken talon, which she has fixed.
Yeah.
This is the color palette she wants to adapt for this, which is a quite ambitious, to say the least.
It's an unusual color palette, full stop. Because the blues you can understand, although you don't see a huge amount of blue dragons normally on the gaming tables. But yeah,
aside
blue,
from frost
great.
dragons.
But it's the gold motif there.
Yeah, and then she has gone on a very detailed, this motherfucker is hard to construct.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, it had been kicking around for some years. It had been dropped on occasion. And it was very much worse for wear.
But just looking at these parts, I can feel the heft and weight of it. That's a piece you can kill your opponent with.
You could kill somebody with it. It's a brute of a thing as well. It is not small. I mean, each wing is about the size of my hand. So what's that in old money? About 7 inches, about 21 centimeters or thereabouts per wing. And they were... There's not much flex in it. There was no lead in that at all. It was made out of solid tin, I think, or something like that. It's a brick.
This is the most interesting thing I've seen. Pinning is something we all have seen and probably done at some point with any miniature. but going on and creating hooks, basically doing something that's more common in construction building than miniature building,
Yeah.
that tells you something about the weight of the wings.
I wouldn't have thought of it. Now, to be fair, my default, anytime I've got a particularly large piece, is to do 3 pins in a triangle for additional stability and support. Because if you've only got 1 pin and there's any wiggle room, it'll start to rotate on its own axis. So I always have 3 separate points.
But I think it's only working for her on this model because the wings have so much hollow space between them. So she actually could stuff the
stuff the
modeling
cavity
putty in there as an additional anchor of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah, because if the wings aren't there, I think you can see right through from one side to the other. If memory serves.
This thing is amazingly large.
Oh, yeah. So there's
just looking at this,
a fair bit of a build. Now those are 25mm squares on that cutting mat.
You're meaning to say inch?
Yeah, if you want to go into that, feel free.
So it's ending at 14 and starting somewhere around 5 inch. So we have a 9-inch diagonal. This is enormous.
And I particularly like when they start to get paint down for a couple of reasons.
Because it's paint?
You'll see when we get there.
This I hadn't seen. The last time I looked, it was basically the paint, the building section.
Now, I'm going to put it to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that if you embiggen one of those,
holy fuck.
Yeah, but notice how the focus is in the background, which leads me to believe it's not that I'm bad at taking photos, it's that I'm cursed in some way, and that object that had been with me for nearly 12, 15 years had assumed some of that curse and carried it across the water, which is why the only things in focus are the bear riding dog elf things in the background and the paints.
Or, as we have seen, your last pictures were in focus. Maybe that was the point of curse, and it has moved.
Passed on. Oh,
and since she has now started painting and assembling, the curse has been lifted from you.
Well, it's a very bright poppy blue as well that's being used there.
So this is the same turntable I have on my airbrush. So I have a quite good understanding on how big this thing is.
Yeah. Oh, it's a heckin' chunker, as I believe the kids say.
I'm daring to imagine how many bottles of paint this will soak up to be completed.
Well, the nice thing is, if you're using an airbrush correctly, you probably end up using less than you would if you were brushing it on by hand.
Probably.
It's only if you're, I don't want to say using it incorrectly, if you have it in a place where you've watered it down too much and your pressure's too high, that you'll start blitzing through paint at a rate of knots. That's the problem I've had to deal with, is learning to thin the paint correctly and then use the right pressure. And you'll find that you've actually got tons. A small cap will do the entire dragon. But with the original inspiration, and I had that really defined gold around the scales, and I'm wondering, because whenever I seen it, I was thinking, what I would do? Because I'm weird like this. Spray it gold, and then dry brush the scales in blue, so you have the gold between the scales at the very depths of it. The alternative is to paint it blue and then do the edges, the outside edges of the scales to get that sort of overlapping thing. But I think it'd be quite unique to have that gold color in between. Anyway, that's just what I think.
Could work.
I'd need to get another one, and you can't think of limited edition.
Maybe try out that method on something smaller first. Maybe
it would require me finding some scale. I probably have lizard men. Seeing if I've got Lizard Man on the shelf beside me. Weirdly, I don't.
Oh, see what she's got herself.
It's one of those magnificent octopus.
Well, I don't know if those actually make dry brushing easier compared to cosmetic brushes, but let's just hope the money is worth it for her. Yeah, this is a very nice dragon.
If it's a decent set of brushes, they'll last for years anyway. So,
and they got a very nice case. So that's that. And who am I to tell other people to what brushes to buy? I'm still using the original GW brush from my painting set from 25 years ago.
I still have some of those. They get used for stirring paint, stirring glue.
Getting paint out of pots that are not dropper bottles.
Hulking, oh no, I don't have any of those. If I can possibly avoid it. Hulking miniatures out of my tub of Dettol. They get used for that as well. It's like fishing. It's good.
Which reminds me, I've got to take a look at my bottle of green.
Ooh. It's the finest green.
Still some flakes coming off, but I would really like to know what white primer that poor orc has gotten to. I literally went on with a wire brush and it didn't come off.
Some sort of fine lead-based paint.
It looked rather than somebody had made multiple thick coats because it ate all the details. And it was really, really dry. So maybe that was somebody who was new to gaming back when the game was new and it has been sitting for 30 odd years. Because
that would explain it.
When it's totally dry, it chips rather easy, but only in large chunks, so the details are still covered in white.
So, not going to use a chisel then?
Yeah, I've tried. The most part I've really got off when it's dry, but the details are really still clogged a bit. Let's see if I can get this thing saved, or maybe have to change it to another orc. Because you can never have enough orcs. I still need to buy one. Let's look on my list. I'm off the dice. I still need the dice, 1 orc and 2 goblins and the elb. And the rest I have. So it's basically near complete, at least from collection. Yes, I'm still stripping that. Stripping takes time. It's a science thing, sort of. I think Jerry has frozen. No, he hasn't. He's
no. I'm reading the chat, seeing what they're saying. They're mostly talking about brushes.
Oh, hello, loving boy, by the way. Did I miss anybody else? Probably.
Oh, so many people. They're all calling you a terrible cat. It's like Robert's there.
Robert is there?
No, but everybody else is making up for it by pointing out just how much you ignore. That's why you're not going to get any, massive Twitch following. Because you just ignore you shouldn't even be looking at the projects. You should just be aimlessly scrolling through while reading out the chat and showing us your tits.
Well,
that's what everybody else I follow on Twitch does.
Showing tits is illegal on Twitch. Even as hairy as mine.
You say that. And yet Twitch exists.
Yeah. And people that are suing Twitch because they can't keep up with good-looking young ladies showing too much cleavage.
My favorite one is there was some game streamery fella in America who had, obviously he's used something like you have, where you've got the little cutouts on your screen.
Yes.
And then he had a pair of Norks in a bra just overlaid just below his head, so it looked like he had a big pair of breasts while he was just playing the game. So his head was there. And I think he was black and the breasts he chose were white, so it was even more obvious. So it's not even the same skin color. It's just like a big pair.
So fake as it possibly can be.
Yeah. Well, just sitting there playing away while everybody stares at his magnificent set of Norks.
Yeah, some people do stuff for money that's insane.
You know.
Well, speaking of crazy,
Hmm.
Dinsdale, Crazy Red Crowd. We had a look at him a while ago, and he did a, as I recall, a 24-hour. I've got this. I paint this. I'm done. Yay! Because he was quite happy today in chat for having finished this model this quickly.
He's just showing off now.
I bet he is.
Yeah, he's in chat at the moment. See, look, there he is.
Is he again?
There's a new post for the tray as well. Well, we've already opened it. I'm not refreshing the page now.
You can't make me.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Where did we leave him? We left him with...
Oh, so far back. Oh, he's been doing so much stuff since then.
I think it was the flying man with a stick in his arse.
Our stick man.
Yeah, this was him.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I'd be flying if I had a stick in my arse.
For some reason, my button mashing hasn't gone through again. Oh, why is this site so slow? Well,
because you touch yourself.
We go and look at his direwolf. And we have a little nice step-by-step photographic tutorial of sorts. Grey on top. Another color that is unknown to us because the name is cut off. A layer paint. Did he say in the text?
Ashen grey.
Ashen grey.
And then Tallow and Sand be the brown bit.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of doing it.
Then some more grey. So this is basically the foundation to make the transition of the fur a bit more defined. That's a small pot of Agrax Earthshade. I didn't know they would come in those small pots.
Depends how long he's had it. They started in those pots.
And then everybody said they are too empty too quickly. We need larger.
It was at that point GW realized they were onto a winner, selling people diluted ink. It's like, holy shit, we could make a religion out of this. And they called it contrast.
Not like they did before with everything else they touched and was a success.
Yeah. Hello, Doom Zombie.
Greetings, Doom Zombie. And to be fair, if you, it's rather irrelevant if you like GW or not. You've got to hand it to them. They know how to make money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And to keep making money for how long now? 40 years? 35?
Yes. No. So when did they start? I want to say they started in 75.
It's a long time.
45 years, maybe. I don't know.
And if nothing catastrophic happens, I'm going
Late
on
70s
that
anyway.
they will be here when we left the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
In one way or another. So Crazy Red Coat has done a beautiful wolf, I think. Even though it doesn't look like any of the reference material he got, but it certainly has a dynamic.
It's got a wolfy look.
Yes. And the base is
Yeah,
fitting.
bottom bit.
And since it's an animal, we can forgive the foot on rock. Because it's paws on rock.
It's the only way allowed around it, is it?
And actually, it's one paw not on rock and the others are on rock, so there's...
Floor's lava.
Yeah. Or water, but then again, that would have to be a cat to make any sense. Floor is water. No, don't go. Oh, wrong button. This button. What it gives. F5. Let's see. Did he do really another entry while we were looking at other people's project? He did.
Oh, see.
Such a show off.
I refuse to go back.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the tray.
You can never go home.
Oh no. Got those buttons, and with this we leave Dinsdale. 144 artists, the Mentix terrain crate painting. I think we were on this project before once or twice.
Yeah, I like it because
But that wasn't
it's the
some time
little
ago.
weird wacky touches he does.
Yeah,
It's just amuse me.
I
Things he
saw
doesn't have to. You're seeing it now.
This freehand, I've saw the small picture, I think in chat, when he showed it in the Ludus chat of the channel of Show Your Progress.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I know this is some sort of reference to real painting. Why is he doing this in that scale? Why do people torture us?
Exactly. Answer the last question first, please. Why do they torture us? If you're going to have a massive banner / tapestry or indeed flying carpet, why not? Why not go the whole hog?
It reminds me very much of the intro sequence of The Last Unicorn. Not only because it's a unicorn, but because of the very similar style.
He just needs his 2 smaller unicorns jumping up and down on Charlie's back there. Charlie!
Oh, and then these... Yes, I remember the
evil mirror.
The fountain. I think we were left with the
fountain
was new.
Yeah.
He does such lovely work.
Magic mirror on the wall is cheeky, but not as cheeky as what appears to be a sketch of the Mona Lisa there. He's just doodling on.
Yeah, I
on a 28mm picture frame.
I did want to encourage him and was ignoring the fact that it reminded me of that as well. Just look at it. This tiny book. With that reference.
He's recreated the book covers. The original DM's guide.
I'm guessing there are about 10 people in the world who would get this on the first sight, but those people would drop dead with awe the minute they saw this. It's amazing.
Is important to remember he's a terrible bastard.
Yeah.
Oh, I noticed he hasn't done the description on the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide in the middle of that. No.
Right.
I have to untap the buttons there.
The white, I didn't tap yet. The white button is missing. Oh, imperfection. We can't go back. How much did he do? Is he trying to...
Terrain crate was massive, and the second terrain crate is about to land with him, so he's been pushing on like Billio to try and finish off all of the original fantasy stuff.
So it's
the next stuff coming is
race between paint and delivery.
And pulp, I think. Yeah, some people have already started receiving it. So squeaky bum time, because if it doesn't arrive before then he has some more terrain crate. I don't know. I've never once gone, oh, such and such is arriving, I better paint the such and such first.
Well, the thought occurred in my mind, but never been really followed through on that.
It's really nice looking at this train crate, because all I can think of is I have all of this sitting in boxes somewhere, and I'm looking at it going, oh yeah, look at the Ifrit coming out of the ground. Oh yeah, I've got those somewhere.
Would be really nice. All these little sets he has built, these little separate units of terrain, to make a hunking pile of a big gaming table and decorate all of it, just to see how it looks. Getting a 3x3 table worth of terrain crate.
It'd be a way to go. Take that as a high compliment. You should. You're a talented bastard.
Yeah.
Are you going to finish off the Mona Lisa?
What do you mean?
It's framed.
Will
you can't leave it as a sketch.
Mona Lisa, or?
Because it wouldn't be framed if it was only a sketch. Well, I suppose actually, if it was a famous artist who died before they could complete it, then they probably would frame a sketch.
It's the artist of...
Maybe he was dictating it.
He had no hands, so he had to tell somebody how to paint.
Almost finished with Tiny Player's Handbook and Monster Manual. Sweet.
Mona Elfsa. Okay, so it's not the Mona Lisa because of copyright.
Hang on, I need to scribble something down.
So,
don't mind me.
If it takes longer, I'll just put on the intermission sign.
No, it's literally while we're going past all the marble stuff there, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I've got to do a jerry can on how to paint marble. And I was thinking about doing it on some MDF bits and pieces I have, and then realised I've got a whole ton of marble terrain crate stuff. In fact, there's 2 of the pillars behind me. Why did I not think about that?
Because
anyway,
that would be too obvious to do marble on marble.
Well, it's like the other day whenever we were looking at Footsore, and then Ben goes, and of course they do Dark Age stuff, and I completely forgot that they'd fucking done. I own it all, but well, not actually at all, because they've released a new set of Anglo-Saxons that I haven't bought yet. But
yeah, that was a minute in the weekend where I really started laughing because it's a typical wargamer's reaction. Oh, I like these. Blink, blink. I already have these. Somewhere. But speaking of obvious, we have the obvious cunt of the show who isn't here now
He's
with
never
us.
Here.
And
never
he did
here.
Ben's hobby.
Yes.
Why did he do Ben's hobby? Has Ben paid him to...
No, because I was talking to Ben today and we were going through some projects and bits and bobs, and he went, hang on a minute, I've just seen Robert's project and it just says about the project, I am Ben. It's like, yes, it does. So yeah, he is.
Really? No, it doesn't.
It does. Look at the about the project on the left. Just below the pie chart. I am Ben. As we used to say, he has consumed his shit to gain his knowledge. So yeah, he's gone full Burrows and Badgers.
He had shown off a lot of those in the Weekender thread, and I was at first a bit irritated, but then there came more, and I said, okay, it's something different. I can understand he wants to paint some fur after all that naked skin he did.
That is true.
He's a cunt.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He can paint, and I hate you for this.
He can.
Just, look at this. He did. What's it called? The thing for carrying
Checkers.
the arrow. What? Pardon?
Oh, the quiver. Oh,
Quiver. Yes.
It was a network error. Let's try again.
With it, and it's,
Has Twitch died in its arse?
I don't know. Not for me.
As for me, I'm going to refresh the page. See if we reappear. Oh, I've got to watch an Amazon Prime advert.
Ah.
There's Jeremy Clarkson being not
Jeremy
racist.
Clarkson.
Who knows? I assume they just mute him all the time. Oh, 15 more seconds anyway.
Yeah, so currently still robots, hares, barrows, badgers, and other furry creatures.
He's a fan of furries. Dun, 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 dun. There we are, back in the room.
So many of them. And what really annoys me the most is because we only see pictures of stages and there's no telling how much time is between these pictures, it makes it look so quick and easy. And when I get down to paint, it takes ages.
Yeah. To be fair, he does seem to sit in his house and go, today I'm going to paint this, and then we'll just spend a day or 2 days painting it. You know,
he putting
a solid 16 hours into something. Whereas if you think about it, you're trying to squeeze that in over a week or two.
Yeah, having no responsibilities other than drinking, eating, and going to work, it really frees up a lot of hobby time. Look at this. He's done
quite nice. But he's done a plaid.
I never quite understood the difference.
Tartan is essentially a made-up thing where they attribute a specific plaid to a specific house.
I've seen the documentary on this. That it wasn't so long ago that these tartans were invented.
Yeah.
By what's his name?
Somebody English. Can't remember. That's why it's tartan, because it's a French-derived word.
And I was going for turd.
That works too. But it is a delightful little set of miniatures.
Yeah.
It almost makes me want to do some Bears and Badgers, except I can't be arsed.
Same.
So I'm not.
Also, I would need to find a vendor for them who has them around my parts, and I'm certainly not going on an online shopping spree again. Those always end up a wee bit expensive, let's say. Last time I was to buy an airbrush and a compressor, and suddenly I had a compressor, an airbrush, an air booth, cleaning kit, and everything else besides primer.
Well, it's an investment.
Yeah, but that's not to be said about miniatures most of the time. Except when you know that this game will be loved for the next 30 odd years.
Yeah.
So if I had known, I'd bought more Blood Bowl and Warhammer stuff when I started. That would have been Warhammer 2nd edition, 40k. That would have... Imagine having that box sealed sitting on a shelf somewhere. With the paper dread and the Gretchens. The monopose.
The cardboard standee dreadnought was great. Not as good as the standee chariot and dragon in the fantasy set at the same time. No, it wasn't a dragon. It was Eltharion on Stormwing. So
at least you have
Griffin.
Gretchens. Would that dread still be tournament legal? It's an official GW.
It's an official GW model. How fucking annoyed would they be if you showed up with them?
Would be worth
Oh,
a
I could
try.
almost feel them fuming.
This almost makes me want to get out my 2nd edition orcs, all these mono poses, somehow source this cardboard dreadnought and go to a tournament and say, see this.
It would be delightful. So delightful.
There would be two kinds of people on that tournament. The ones that go, oh, this is so cool, and the other ones chewing on the table edges.
It's I did hear somebody had turned up to, I can't remember if it was a tournament or just a Games Workshop, and they were told you can't play with non-GW models in GWs, and they were told to put them away because they weren't official GW models, and he pointed out they were, and they just, predated the child who was telling him not to put them on the table. And by child, I mean whatever staff member it was talking to them. It was just like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, those are the best when somebody tries to tell you you can't do some special thing, and you exactly know, yes, I can. And only because you're a poor sod and you don't know better, let me show you my I can card.
In reverse.
Last week and the week before, we had a look at somebody's terrain made out of scrap. This week, there's another scrap terrain, but I think it's somebody different.
It is somebody different. It's
Moji. Though to be fair, these Yakult bottles I have seen before in other projects, but they are really a nice form to play with.
Yeah, they're a fantastic shape, especially for some sort of weird container or vat, I suppose.
Yeah, and just adding a few bits and bobs really make them already stand out.
My favorite bit, you'll probably spot it whenever we scroll down further anyway. What my favorite bit is.
Well, we'll see. It probably will be some naughty bit.
No.
No?
Nothing naughty about it.
Oh, I'm scared. No, I'm scared. Still nothing.
Nice little...
Did I pass it already, or...?
Yeah, you've already passed it. I'm just waiting to see if it comes round again. But it's nice seeing just the collection of them stuck together. And the paint job's fairly simple, making them look almost
Are you
concrete.
referring to the handles?
I am referring to the handles. Because that's not one you can follow along at home. What did you use for that? Well, every Rhino came with 2 of these handles. I'm going to use 6 of them on this one pot. When did they stop making that kit? Oh, late
2004?
90s.
Yeah.
I remember we were all shocked whenever that Rhino got retired. It's like, how long has that been kicking around the bits box?
So these parts could only be reproduced by either casting them yourself or stealing someone's bits box who's in the hobby for 30 years. But these really look nice.
Mine are in here. You just can't have them.
So if I send you some empty Yakult bottles, would you do them?
To be honest, no, I wouldn't. Actually, I'm just looking at those. Because that's an original Rhino handle. They may not be the original ones. They may be from one of the modern ones. Oh, that's not as bad then. But no, I have a little jig from making wire handles. Essentially,
he says those are from the Rogue Trader Rhino kit.
He says that, but I'm holding one here and it's not the same.
Maybe the Rogue Trader is even older?
No, because this is the Rogue Trader kit.
It's weird.
They do look familiar, but they're not Rhino handles.
Does Chet know anything? They are in the Lehman Russ too.
There we go. That makes more sense. Yeah, I could see them being Imperial Guard because they have a little more detail on them than the Rhino ones, which were essentially just a U shape and two blobs, whereas that looks like a made handle.
So there's that mystery solved.
And
we can sleep a little better tonight. Yeah. But Moji, well done. Maybe I wonder, these aren't very heavy, so how do they keep upright in these single poses?
I imagine the single ones get knocked over an awful lot and sworn.
Probably. Maybe he should have filled the lower part with something.
Yeah. Sand.
Yeah, or putty. Gold.
Plasticine.
Lead?
Gold would work. Oh, you don't want to waste lead. Not when you could be making miniatures out of that. Sweet miniatures.
It would be an awesome hiding spot for your very vintage miniatures.
Inside train. Like some sort of Maltese falcon of Yakults.
The adult version of Kinderüberraschung, Kinder Surprise eggs. No chocolate, but a very nice miniature inside. Actually, way back in the 80s, Kinder Surprise eggs had miniatures in them. Small metal collectibles.
Oh,
classical warriors like Romans, Greeks.
No, I can never remember seeing metal ones in our versions over here, but they did do fairly complicated multi-part plastic kits, like racing cars and stuff that would all come, and you'd have to assemble it out of the bits.
I remember them so vividly because my brother collected them all, and there were quite a bit, and there were 1 or 2 missing on his collection, and for some reason I got them. And he went out of his way to get them from me. As big brothers do. It still hurts today.
It only hurts when it rains.
And it rains constantly in Germany. So, the next project. Jerry snuck in here hoping I wouldn't here's hoping.
I didn't put a name on it. I was just hoping you'd be opening all the tabs and wouldn't have time to spend any attention.
Since I created this abomination of blinky bits.
I like the sparkles.
They turned out a bit better than I hoped, though not as good as I wanted. Especially my poor photography skills don't really do them justice because they really, really sparkle.
I imagine that's probably why. The photography is not working quite so well there. The sparkle's just making the focus on the camera freak out.
The camera goes totally bonkers. Let's try this. Before we went online, my camera still worked. So, if everything goes down... Oh, wrong camera. This one.
Hey!
Now we have a bit more zoom.
Skittles, taste the rainbow.
Isn't he lovely?
You know what reminds me of? A long time ago, Lance and Justin and Ryan were all talking about starting up small war bands for Warcry or something, GWS. I have no idea what they are. Well, everyone has all the fucking cards as well. And Ryan got the undead, easiest one to paint, and he was
And
going,
he still
"Oh yeah,
doesn't have them done, does he?
no, they're not even out of the box." But he was going, "I'm not even going to paint them bone, which would be the simple way. I'm going to spray them all black and throw glitter into the air, just let it land on them." And seeing these, I'm going, "Oh man, he really should do that."
He could also do them in bone color with a bone color spray, and then just chuck the glitter on it.
Oh
It's
no,
still
no,
glitter.
it's the stars, you know, the black night sky with all of the silver
Oh, the
gold stars.
endless void.
Yeah, that would be his undead. Going, fucking do it.
I wonder the Age of Sigma undead, these flying carpets, they would look nice that way.
Do they have flying carpets? Oh yes,
No,
yes.
the-
the
these-
bed sheets that
yeah,
are
the bed
blowing in
sheets,
the
the
wind.
carpets.
Yeah. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad way of doing them.
And to get one ahead,
Still not.
the thing that Lena suggested to me with these holographic nail flaky things that would look even more cool.
It's a way to do it.
I still have to find this.
I still want to
stuff.
try the nail stamp thing that you like print little designs.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, everybody who has seen this before, we had all a chuckle, especially myself. I'm still wondering if there's somewhere some 40k player really twitching.
I imagine so. But to be fair, if they've seen anything GW has put out for official chapters, they've really no comeback. I mean, there's nothing worse in the 40k pantheon than the lightning armored monkeys and all of that sort of thing, and the ones with big flappy wings on their hats, and they just look ridiculous already. So why not go the whole hog?
Yeah, there are some, especially if you go in the more earlier versions, there are some color palettes that
Oh yeah,
hurt
there's some
your
announcements.
eyes.
I didn't mind. Rainbow Warriors were cool.
Yeah.
They were just, at the end of the day, they were just navy blue, but they had the rainbow stripe on the helmet. That wasn't too bad.
Doing a full color spectrum squad.
Oh, like Captain Scarlet.
or using UV light colors. Plain white by day, but when you use the UV
Black
light,
light.
go
Yeah. They,
bright as fuck.
oh dear. Like
Next
a
up.
90s rave.
We need something to cleanse our palate. And here are not the Dragonborn, but his companions. Chaos Gorkor did some Stormcloak soldiers. I looked at this project, I think yesterday, or Sunday even, and I really love his paint job, but the model poses on these miniatures are a bit weird sometimes.
I assume they're mimicking the game. I don't know.
Yeah,
Not seen
combat
the
stance,
game,
but
so.
if you look at this especially, it looks like he's dancing some weird dance, shaking his rear end
Perhaps he's just having a massive dump.
with his sword out.
Harlan Griffin's red and yellow quarters. The DS. They were cool. Yeah, I don't mind him so much because he does look like he's possibly in a pose, although the fact he's squatting.
But I think that's the
Doesn't
same
help.
miniature I had some issues with when Modifius initially announced these, because I remember there was one pose on the group photo that really stood out in a not very good way. I think that was that one, because it was photographed from a 3 o'clock angle, and that looked even weirder.
Better again.
But yeah, he did a stunning job on the padded leather. And
You can see how he did it using these peanut butter paints.
Yeah, he did a very extensive tutorial later on. And these stripes and highlights on the coats, the blues, I wouldn't have gone that far. To be honest, I would have maybe dry brush them on a bit and then call it a day. So here is his very, very step-by-step how to do good padding on a model. And I really think he's done an amazing job for a tutoring, even though I dare to say I couldn't recreate it if I tried.
Oh, of course you could. Totes you could.
Maybe when some local game stores actually stocks these, I may give it a go, but I won't be ordering them online. Because as of now, I know literally no one in my area who is going to play this. And I'd rather invest my hobby money in games that I can play.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it launched just as everything was shutting down as well, so I don't think anybody anywhere in the world has actually played it.
No, it's not even launched yet, as far as I recall. It was scheduled for August or something.
Was it? I could have sworn it was before then, because they sent us the boxes in January or February. January to do unboxings with. And then I thought just after the lockdown that they'd announced it was going to be coming out at some point. So who knows?
Well,
clearly
either
he's
way,
got some.
It's not here.
Maybe this is Modiphius's way of making up for all the people who can't get Fantasy Flight outside of Germany.
You think they are some kind of avenging angel on the hobbyists?
No, but they're probably stroppy buggers who are annoyed they can't get Chewbacca. They're just doing out badness. Call it the Ben
effect. I don't know
effect.
what you're talking about. I have no idea.
Ben effect.
Next up, this is from Kronos the Traveler. He does greywater fastnets, smog belchers, whatever the hell that is.
It seems to be some sort of steampunk 40k.
Well, he says it's Warhammer Age of Sigmar, but I really doubt that.
Then Age of Sigmar is one of the most popular supplements for 40k that they've released. And there's, so. But if you look at it,
you think it's a spin-off?
I just think it's a supplement for it. I imagine at some point those two games will collide, and you'll be able to do just, you want to play your elves against Space Marines, go for it.
The long-awaited dream of most GW fanboys of the last 30 years, with the hypothesis that the fantasy world is just an abandoned planet somewhere in the 40k universe.
Cut off by warp storms. Remember, for the first 10 years, both rule sets were the same. Well, possibly not 10 years. For the first 7 years, both rule sets were the same, and you could play against each other if you wanted.
Well, there shouldn't be very much difference, only because the amount of or the level of technology has risen. So,
yep,
infantry is infantry.
And more importantly, strength reduced armor save. In the old days, you go Space Marines, 3-up armor save. Do you think so? What if I shoot you with this gun? 5-up armor save. Fuck you, Marines. We played a game of Rogue Trader. Played a game of Rogue Trader a couple of years ago with some friends, and they could kind of remember how the game played, and I remembered quite a lot of how the game played. And so whenever we spent our points, because we were just playing a 100-point per side type of game, and I just took a set of Romans and I went, here's my force. And they went, what? But they go 24 Romans, heavy armor and shield. And they go, what? I've got 2 Space Marines, or whatever ridiculous amount it was. And then we started fighting, and they discovered that at that point, weight of numbers worked much better than technology.
Yeah, that's it. But speaking of Space Marines, today I read something that made me chuckle a bit. There was in a German Discord group a bit of discussion of the why is always Space Marines in the starter sets of 40k. And then somebody said, I've been playing 40k since 1997. It's slowly getting on my nerve. I was like, dude, if you're playing 23 years a game and it's now just getting on your nerve that there's always Space Marines, you're a patient man.
My sweet summer child, I think is the phrase.
I was a bit baffled. As I am with these conversions that our dear friend has done.
Well, this is it. Because if you take your things and then you make them kiss, you end up with stuff like this. So that's a Hellblaster volley gun and a I want to say it was the Hellstorm rocket battery.
It says Hellstorm rocket battery.
Does it say on it?
It does.
Oh, that's all right then. That saves me having to guess.
And the Ironside steam cannon.
Yeah, and they are.
So he basically took Age of Sigmar, and
he took Warhammer Fantasy because they're fantasy models. They don't exist anymore.
Age of Sigmar and War Machine, yeah, and just shook it a bit, poured some glue in it, and yeah, he came up with some real nice designs.
It's peculiar. I particularly like the Space Marine shoulder pads the wrong way round to give them that really wide look.
But are they wrong way around, or is this the correct way and we've been doing it wrong all these years?
Oh, that'd be amazing. So Rick Priestley suddenly came out tomorrow and just went, you know what?
This is how
the shoulder pads were never supposed to be that. Oh my God. Well, it would be like
but
American football linebackers.
Those guys can look over their shoulder. They can see what's behind and left and right.
That is true, yeah. It makes a lot more sense when you put it like that. That's what the game has been missing.
That's always something that really messed my head when I saw some Space Marine models where the head literally only went one direction, and that was forward. So I always thought, yeah, just go behind him. He can't see you. Kick him in the butt and run.
You say that they still exist, Crazy. You can't actually buy any of the figures. You can only buy a book that lets you use them. So technically they exist. But in a very real sense, they don't.
As long as his name is spoken, he exists.
He exists. Clacks.
Why am I coming back to Pratchett every now and again?
I have no idea. It's probably some sort of terrible affliction you've come down with. Pratchettism.
I think the problem is I listen to the Pratchett audiobooks every day when I go to bed, just to keep the madness out.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
If they've reboxed them, they're not available for sale in non-GW stores. So it must be either GW only or online web exclusives to GW only, which as far as I'm concerned means they don't exist.
Print to order. Well, let's get on to the next. I really want to ask you, before we dive into this project, why did you call this on the document Pigs in Space?
Because Pigs in Space was an amazing TV show.
It is.
In Space.
Where is the reference to this?
Nowhere. It's just spaceships.
Okay, so Jovian Wars by Artemis 5150 does chips.
Chips. Chips, I see. No, chips.
Pick chips, please.
You're lucky, because there was 2 in contention from Artemis, and I didn't want to stack the deck with too many from the same person, and the other one was just boring Star Wars Legion stuff that you wouldn't have been interested in. So.
Oh, shut up, you cunt!
I love you.
This is why I love you. So, this is this a game system I not heard of yet? DreamPod 9?
He is part of DreamPod 9's demo and promotion team. So this is for a new edition of the Jovian Chronicles, which is a game I've heard of but never seen anything about. In fact, I think that's the first time I'm seeing the ships, so I knew it was out there. But it's hard sci-fi, so no faster than light travel. It's all colony ships and stuff like that, and hence the spinning section, I imagine, to generate gravity in the middle, like Babylon 5.
would go out on a limb and say I may have seen these bases on Tactica 2 years ago, but I'm not quite sure. Because Tactica has so many weird little systems.
Just remember, I can click on these and the pictures get bigger. Save me having to squint. There's the Illustrious.
I mean, these ships look cool. There's certainly something different.
And
you can read the text.
CSS Narwhal. I imagine that some form of decal has been applied to get these up and running.
Looks like it.
Because if they were hand painted, somebody's in for a kicking. But it's really nice to see something
molded onto the model.
Oh. Clever, Mr. Bond. No. I think it's a transfer. Because if you look at the Valley Forge, where's it? I have to scroll back.
Valley Forge. I only see two. Oh no, the Valley Forge.
It's the very first one. The G goes up at an angle across
you're right.
So I think they're a decal.
Probably. And it would have
if it was molded,
put it a bit more to the left.
Then
we wouldn't have known. But
it's very nice.
As you just said, do you happen to know the German comic artist Rute? Because I know he does his works in English too. And he does one-panel comics, and in one comic you see a character resembling Dr. Blofeld sitting in his chair, in his undergarments and these little rabbit shoes you wear when you're comfy at home. And some guy in a tuxedo standing in the door, and he only goes, "I've been not expecting you, Mr. Bond."
That works.
Has a 3-day beard on it and is in a rather not presentable shape. It's just every time somebody mentions Bond, this comes up in my mind now.
It's the way to do it.
So I'm halfway through.
Slodger. Cadetic Kill Cannon. It'll be interesting to see. I might have to go and have a nosy.
On what?
Just the Dream Pod 9's game. See what it's like.
It looks interesting.
Don't need another sci-fi game to play.
Well, having is better than wanting, as we
well,
have stated.
There is that. Also, there's
but just to
Billion Suns coming next year, so
get something new on the table. Rangers of Shadow Deep Ghouls by Duck the Fuck.
That is his name.
And these look really somewhat ghoulish. Or you can almost hear the bodily fluids drip on the floor. And he's a very forthcoming chap because he has merged the photos, so we don't have to click on many of them.
Oh, it's just showing off now.
Probably.
That's very interesting hand on that zombie / ghoul.
It's nearly off. Not
yeah,
all the way.
I wonder if he's done that. I own 1 million of those, and I can't remember ever seeing that arm.
Maybe it was an accident, and he made it look like that.
Or deliberately changed it. Or maybe it does come like that. To be honest, I'd have to take them out of the box and off the sprue to know for certain. That's not going to happen.
And you would have to look for the box first.
Oh, I know where they are, don't worry. There's a stack of 200 plus mantic ghouls and zombies waiting for me to put together a ridiculous zombie. It's like 50 points in Kings of War or something.
So this picture he used, I would say this is a promotional picture of GW.
So that's a GW one, yes. Because they're normally, I'm assuming these are goblins or something. They're not actually ghouls.
He says the Hobbit Goblin Warriors.
Yeah.
On a brown sprue.
I tell you what, though, they make much better ghouls than they do goblins.
I'd say so, yeah.
Especially compared to the GW ghouls. Oh, Jesus, they are terrible. I hate them so much. They're hairy backs. Backs so hairy that they're capable of holding skulls upright in the air.
What?
What the fuck were they thinking? Like, they came out They came out after, you've seen the Mantic ones above you there,
Yeah.
the first ones they looked at, which are excellent. And they're like 2-piece, well, 3-piece head, body, and torso, and then the legs, and that's it. So you can hammer them together a array of knots. And then GW after that came out with their goals. You're going, they've got so much time, money, and effort to throw at these things to make really nice models if they want to. And they came out with those heaving piles of turd. I just looked at them, well, why the fuck did you even bother? Why?
Well, because they know somebody will buy them.
Well, yeah, because they ban anybody from using Mantic in their stores, so that works. But
looking at them painted in a ghoulish way, they look rather ghoulish.
oh yeah, the goblins are great, just not their ghouls.
This fellow I like the most, with the festering pustles on his face and all the shimmering sod that comes off.
He's a cheery chap, despite suppurating. I think those are the technical paints, the pustulhide pustulation. That's its name. Don't have to look it up.
He hits his ghouls with
There goes Ross.
shade wash.
Yeah, at the bottom though he goes, blood for the blood god and Nurgle's rot technical paints. They're handy if you're doing a lot of pustules.
They look quite apart. I guess if you paint them green, you could also throw them in any wasteland as some sort of mutated beasts.
For the people asking about Billion Suns, I'm pretty sure it is called Billion Suns.
Billion stars?
Yeah, it's Billion something. It's the rule set coming from the guy who came up with Gaslands for Osprey.
Well, we have quite a selection of spacefaring war games. Full Thrust is a name that's thrown around. I not heard the first time today.
It's good, clean family fun.
But Full Thrust works on Hexbase, does it? As I remember? Or
Yes.
was it...
With vectored movement. Whoa.
Speaking of Hexbases, I'm happy to let you all know, since in Germany the lockdown has been lifted a bit in the past, I'll be able to play with my friendly local game store again.
Ooh.
So on Thursday I'm going to have a friendly game or two
Battletech.
of Battletech. Exactly. Because A, I don't have to carry that much shit around, and B, because Carsten is way more into Battletech than anything else.
Cool.
He was there when the magic was cast, so he's a bit older than me, and he still remembers most of the tables by heart. It's scary sometimes.
That's always so much easier though, because you don't even have to think.
Yeah, and even with the rulebook at hand, it's a lot of page flipping and looking for tables where what is written, and it does speed up the game a bit.
Very much so. Can't see
So,
where I've put it. Oh well.
Do
Be
you
about
want
some.
to go on to the next?
Let's.
We have Terrain from Trash. Sounds familiar, by Antiquatas. And he does. He has been inspired by Captain Skyhawk's beautiful piece. Well, who wouldn't be? And he's trying to do something similar.
Well, yes.
Let's take a look-see.
This is actually an old thing. So it's more or less a revisit or just a showcase of something he built 15 odd years ago. From
You can tell that is an old, because if you look at the game on the table.
People enjoying themselves.
Yeah, and a rather flat surface with mixed terrain, I'd say.
Yeah, but if that's a club or a tournament,
It looks like a tournament.
That's like every tournament I've been to.
Does he describe what he's used with that?
Yes, it's a handheld vacuum cleaner, like a dust buster, dust devil. That then got a bit of a chop up with.
A vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
My first guess was this has been a science fiction toy of sorts.
Mm.
Well, a broken vacuum is also valid, I think. Would be cool if the motor was still in it and doing noises when he pushes the button, going whee.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the best thing about it was the Hoover motor still worked and the sound from it was epic. Because there is power running to it, as you can see, because both the gun and the presumably cockpit or something on top lit up. So
I know that cockpit. That's from a Zoid.
a Zoid.
You remember those?
Yes. I have a friend who's still a huge Zoid fan and will occasionally spend stupid amounts of money on Fleabag and get them.
Those were second to Transformers only for me, but they were very difficult to get in Germany. And hideously expensive. Yeah, but that's definitely a Zoid cockpit.
So it's just a nice little blast from the past.
Yeah, and to think that's 15 years ago.
15 years ago. Get less for murder.
Makes me want to weep. Thank God I have alcohol.
From a purely scientific point of view, alcohol is a solution.
It is. And all those people who say alcohol never solved any problems, did milk ever solve any problems? Or juice, for that matter?
Can't imagine so.
Let's go to Dane 001's project.
11001.
You know, I like when people do a good project picture to make people know what's happening. When it's this kind of picture, I already hate the people before opening the project.
Oh, no, 100% fuck them.
If this is not a transfer...
Unvote everything.
If this is hand-drawn, I'm going to cry. Tell me this is a transfer.
I'm not telling you anything at all.
Oh, God.
You can make up your own mind. There's the video, though, showing how he does it.
How he's applying the transfer, you want to say? Yes?
Yeah, let's go with that. Sure, why not?
Well, the model is, it's GW. I don't like it. Not because it's GW, but I don't think it's aesthetically pleasing to me.
It took me a while to work out what it was, because when I initially seen it, I thought they're parts of a Titan or a Knight. You know, it looks like maybe that's a cockpit or an arm or guns. And they're going, no, that is just a model.
You're giving me a very weird, expensive idea for a crossover. You could use these and make a 40k Voltron.
Yeah, no, feel free. They would make great.
You using a Land Raider or two as legs.
Land Raider's too chunky for legs. Land Raider would have to be your torso.
Yeah, but what would you use as legs? Imperial Walkers.
Imperial Walker.
Yes. And that would be the only way you could make a Titan more expensive than a Titan.
One of the little flying Primaris hover tanks as its head. No, I know the head. The Space Wolf flyer that looks like a dog's head. I don't know how much coke was taken the day that one went through the design studio. Going, we should make it look like a dog because they're Space Wolves. Ah, it's got floppy ears, the fucking nose, yay! And then somebody at GW went, sure, yeah, stick a £60 price tag on it and get it out there.
If I'm going to look here now, will I see him painting this thing, or will he actually do a transfer?
No, they are transfers. It's towards the end. Because it's fairly good. If you haven't come across Lone Wolf stuff before, Dane's stuff, Lone Wolf's channel on the YouTubes and Twitch, I think. The little painting videos are compact. They're all sped up and voiced over, so that they give a very good explanation of what he's doing. But it's nice to see that he's putting more photos into them and not just dropping the video in and then running away, because I think a lot of people clicked on things and then just didn't bother watching the video and wandered off. Whereas now you go, is that a transfer? I tell you what, I'll watch the video. I will watch it to find out.
Yeah, if that had been with freehand drawing, I wouldn't bother anymore with painting anything.
Oh, you just that would be you. You just give up.
I know there are people in this world that actually do this stuff. There was last year this amazing Imperial Titan with the church-like paintings all over.
There's a lot of Russians in the world, mostly in Russia, thankfully. But the amount of stuff, you don't really see it. They do some 40k, they do some sci-fi and fantasy, but they do an awful lot of historic models. And the detail that gets put into shields, banners, horse curtains, it's just ridiculous. It's worth googling some of the Russian stuff every now and again just to really make yourself feel terrible.
With a model maker, I think he's Russian too, and he does very extensive reviews of model kits, and then this is how I make this better. And then
that sounds right.
Does amazing things. He takes something like a cheap Revel model kit and then adds so much stuff, and when it's painted you think this has to be a 150-pound Tamiya kit or something.
Yeah. Filthy, that's what they are. Crazy, that is an unusual place to keep Russians. Mostly they get found in the Crimean Peninsula in the Ukraine. That's possibly Vladimir Putin calling you to tell you to shut me down.
No, I think there has been
something terrible at work. Oh no.
Yeah, this is...
We'll never see the last three.
Rather serious. I'm just going to take a short little break. Please stand by. Well, I'm back. That's a short and ugly message from the office.
Everything's gone wrong.
Yeah,
somebody's cut all the phone lines.
That could happen because we have construction on site. No, the one of the main servers is acting strangely, to say the least. But since I'm more than one beer into my evening, I'm not able to drive anymore, and somebody else has to push a button.
Yay!
Will be no problem.
It's probably just TikTok.
No, I'm putting my finger on defective hardware because at a server that's 4 years old with a 40 terabyte payload, that's something. That does a bit. So, where were we? Yes, Dane 001, nicely done. And don't go into freehand with this, please.
Yeah, you get to live because you used to transfer. It's the only reason you get to live.
I keep painting because reasons. Next, Classical Indians for Mac. So this is by Debright.
Yeah, in the words of Peter Griffin,
game system
shut
he's
up,
using
Meg.
them for Mortem et Gloriam.
Meg to its friends.
This is so he does his own mixtures with own bottles. This is a first. I haven't seen this in the project system before, I think.
Yeah.
This is
You should always mix your own stuff. It's amazing.
Close to professional level.
Well, it's slightly better than mine. I don't even put a label on mine. I just write on them in Sharpie, and then every time I'm shaking it up or rubbing it, it slowly wears away. So that does say dark black brown wash. You just can't really see it anymore. It's like a DA and then a B, and the rest is gone. So at least he's got some sort of papery label on his. So he's winning.
I think Army Pager actually sells these bottles this way.
With labels on them?
Yes.
Oh, that's showing off. To be fair, though, I bought like 80 of these dropper bottles before Army Painter was a thing.
I wouldn't say that they are cheap, but I'm quite sure that Army Painter actually does sell these bottles as for storage mixture.
Lots of people, Vallejo, do droppers and stuff as well. I think I got these from where'd you used to get them in the old days? Tattoo parlor place. Somebody who supplies tattoo parlors sell little dropper bottles. In fact, I know exactly where I got them from because I got a bear mat coaster type thing. So Barber DTS.
Well, it's always good to
who knows
if
they're even still fucking running.
That's happened to me when I was looking up the shop. I got my glass agitator thingies for my paints, and I said, oh well, let's maybe look if they're still around and get some more. Nope, not around anymore.
What?
So these are 15 mil by the looks of it, or
15 mil? No, these are 15 mil. So Meg is scaled for 15 or 28. Although realistically, you can play it in any scale you want, as long as the base sizing works.
I think he went a bit overboard on the flocking on this one, or these people have just been visited by the lawnmower. they have quite a bit of flock on them.
It's entirely possible they've been running through a jungle, and the elephant in front has kicked up a lot of dirt, knocked down a lot of vines. Therefore, that's it.
And he did some green stuff on the elephants because of gaps.
Hey, it's a good way to do it, 15 mil.
Gaps at 50 mil is something hard to imagine, but very obvious.
Oh, that's particularly gappy. Wonder who made that. Who is that?
Did he say?
Elephants from 3 different suppliers, Essex, Magisters, and Zeiston. Pay your money, takes your chances. I'm going to go out and live and say, that has all the feel of very old Magisters Militum stock, or could be Essex, I suppose. I can't see it being Zeiston. It's too new.
Some of those Essex models are as old as I am.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't say much if you don't know how old he is. So,
if he's playing Meg, he's not under 30.
It would be a surprise.
It's just how that one works.
I wonder why there's such a correlation between getting older and playing different systems.
I think it's one of those things people tend to develop over time. Well, everybody will start with a game, whether it happens to be science fiction, fantasy, or historic, it doesn't really matter. But you start with a game for a specific reason. Either your friends play it or your family plays it. And then that tends to be the sole focus for years. And it's later on you go, well, you know what? It's just not quite doing it for me anymore. I don't want to roll more dice than I can comfortably fit in two hands. I'd be more interested in actually doing the command and control side type of thing. And then people sort of stray away.
I think that's the main point of it. The younger players are still having this gamble feeling by throwing dice, because if you throw a dice, anything can go wrong. But if you're going on a more abstract level, it's really coming down to tactics and how to use your forces.
So much so that I know...
To be honest, that's probably why I will never play any of these games, because I'm not good at throwing dice. And I'm certainly not good at tactics.
There are quite a few games that rely on single dice rolls. And even that is, you're one dice against one dice. The fact that it can swing between a 1 and a 6 is too much. So people replace the d6 with an average dice, which is a thing of beauty. It goes 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. So the worst swing you can get is a 3-point swing between a 2 and a 5. But you're much more likely just to be down the middle. And that takes some of the risk out of it for them. So that's always good. Yeah. Everybody should own a pair of average dice at some point in their life.
I don't think I've ever seen those in person.
They're amazing.
But then again,
somewhere buried next door.
The most people I played with are my age or younger, so... They still have to come around to those, I think. Yeah, Stanley, after decades you get bored and want to try new games. As if we don't have enough fantasy and sci-fi games popping out left, right and center every now and then. I think making a complete list of every game from the last 30 years would be very hard to do.
Yeah, practically impossible.
It would be a very long list. Especially when you're thinking of IP-related games like Judge Dredd, which has gone through multiple vendors.
Yeah.
There was... Who did it? It was GW at some point?
GW started. GW had the license for years. Mongoose had it. Then when Mongoose had it, somebody else was producing it for them.
When Mongoose had it, that was the point when I jumped in on the Kickstarter.
Yeah. I can't remember who was producing it. Mongoose still held the license, but somebody else was producing it for a while, and then it just went away completely, and Warlord picked it up. So it's been through 4 companies that I can think of. But then there's...
With everything that is IP selling to different peoples, I guess there would be some other games that would technically count as a miniatures game, but were sold as board games and therefore didn't apply to any selling of IP.
That's like the 2 Doctor Who games.
Yes.
That quirk just came down to 2 different people selling it, the IP, but for the same company.
Yeah. So, Deep Ride, nice short project. I hope there will be more, but by the looks of this header picture, he's done.
Well, I wouldn't have thought so. For the smallest scale of Meg, you need somewhere around 30 bases, and he has about half of that there. So I would
2/3.
I would imagine at least another chunk of stuff to come, and then beyond that, he can then scale that up to Maximus, where it runs up to about 70 to 90 bases of figures for an army.
From what I can see now, I would imagine some heavy artillery.
If it's classical Indians, don't know if they had any. Not sure.
Then some more elephants.
Oh, probably a lot more elephants. I know they had those ridiculous bows, but I don't know if they ever manufactured ballista, although those ridiculous bows did kind of cover the same sort of area.
Well, carry on. we have Victorian Empire Strikes Again by Denzian. And this we had seen sometimes before.
Had we? I hadn't
I
noticed.
think this was the happy little chap with the nice little posters on the wall, was he not?
Yes, but not in this one. That was in his World War One thing. So I don't know if I've ever inflicted this on you because it's Rock's Drift.
I don't think, but
I think I've been very good.
I would have remembered you going on Rock's Drift, not done by you. And I'm going out on it. This is Rock's Drift, is it?
Yes, it is.
And he's done a table.
He has done a table. If you go back far enough, which I don't suggest doing right now, because there are pages, he started a year or more ago.
So when Ben was at the studio, Big Ben.
Yeah, and it had the detail on how he painted up the forces he was using for Rock's Drift, and then some other bits and bobs, and then it sort of took a little break from it, and then returned now to do the actual build.
Oh, and you have nice neighbors.
We have neighbors. Let's put it like that. But it's very interesting because he has visited Rock's Drift, so there's a lot of photographs that he took himself firsthand, which is great because you can find lots of pictures. It's semi-preserved, the site, for anybody looking to do it, and then you can try and get the maps, where you can get the maps drawn by Chard at the Drift, but he did 2 different maps at 2 different times. There's discrepancies between them. So actually being able to walk there as a gamer and go, I need to know what the terrain is like from here to there. And then he's just taking a picture. Or from there to there. He's going, take another picture. You're going, you lucky bastard. So yeah, he has plotted out his Drift. And more cleverly than me, he's made it fit on a regular gaming table. Mine doesn't.
Well, I think this is one of those projects that every gamer has in his head at one point, a time or another. Because this is simply something you fixate your mind on and think, oh, this would be so cool to do. And most would just go, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Be it for lack of time, money, resources, or simply space.
Yeah. Well, mine is specifically done to be a mass battle participation game at a convention or a event. So it's 28mm scale and plays on an 8-foot by 6-foot table, which is just ridiculous. But because of that, I have certain things that are right. So I have the terrain layout is close to his, but it's made in foam, and then blankets go over the top, and it's all collapsible, so I can put it away. Whereas because Denzian is just going, I really want Rock's Drift on a gaming table, and therefore some things have been compressed, so the Oscarberg ridge is closer than it should be, and it's lower, but it's just like the foothill type bits. But the detail work he's put into building the detail on the slopes, having little caves in it, the escarpment at the front of the Drift, the detail even of just like the scrubland and stuff coming up is really, really nicely done. It's close to railway sort of layout modeling. It's beautifully done.
It's a sight to be seen. It makes me wonder, the space material he uses looks rather flexible, because on one picture it seemed to be hanging off the ledge somewhat.
I think it's the black foam tiles. So I don't know how flexible that is compared to others.
There was one picture I scrolled past where the one half was going down. I think he's using more than one layer, so that is, I think, rather flexible. And especially if it's foam, it won't be sturdy or rock hard.
So I have a sneaking suspicion there's a variety of stuff going on there, because I think there's foam for lightness and also to raise up sections, but then he's also mixing it in with, expanded
Yeah, it looks like he's
insulation
using the
board
foam
stuff
in
as well.
layers to get
Yeah.
the levels of elevation.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is...
It's a stunner. He's a clever little bugger.
Yeah, and if he somehow manages to get this thing from A to B without breaking it, it sure is some eye-catcher on a convention of sorts.
I don't know if that one's ever going to move around much. I don't know. We should ask him at some stage.
Well, if he were there or here now, I would, but he isn't.
No, he's not. He's a terrible bastard. That's all right. I'm here. My stuff moves around.
And that's all that counts.
I think so.
Yes. So, last project of the day, we've saved up something that isn't quite a hobby project as the usual way, but somebody is asking valid questions.
Yes.
How to build a game. Magrathian Apprentice, however that is pronounced, is playing and toying with the idea of doing a game. He's, as far as I have read it, preferring sci-fi, but at that junction he's already come to the what do I need for sci-fi, or what taste of sci-fi do I need, or do I want? Hard sci-fi, fantasy sci-fi, or alternative history?
Tatty bye, Martin. Yeah, this one amused me when I discovered it today, because he posted it a few weeks ago and nobody's been near it. And I don't know if that's because he posted it at a time and then nobody was around, and all of a sudden people uploaded a load of the posts and it got pushed way far away. So I thought I'd just tell people that it was out there and get them to throw their 2 pence, 2 cents, 2 pfennig in whatever it happens to be.
We don't have Fennec anymore. That's 30 years ago.
Yeah, close enough. I mean, I can't spend the ones I have then.
No, you should hang on to those. Those could be collectibles by now. Actually. So I just looked it up. The June 21st was a Sunday, so maybe everybody was busy looking at the XLBS.
Yeah. Shocking. Frightening.
And I think every other Sunday is a bad day to post projects if you want people to participate.
Well, then obviously it gets spammed buggery Monday and Tuesday, because they were going to be swanning in, telling everybody what the most important things are.
Probably. So what would you suggest as a personal preference to do on sci-fi? Hard sci-fi, fantasy, or alternative history?
I would have to say I'd really like to see more hard sci-fi. Obviously, Cyberpunk's got stuff coming out. Infinity exists, but there's an awful lot of interesting things kicking around that have nothing attached to them. So I'm just curious. Sci-fi fantasy, Star Wars is great, but Star Wars is different. If somebody says sci-fi fantasy to me, I tend to mostly default to a Shadowrunny type of thing, and whereas I don't mind aliens
Magic?
in my sci-fi. I dislike magic and elves in my sci-fi. It's just jarring. It's why
I'm a bit torn on this, because I like all three. I think all three have a valid point of existence of sorts, but on the other hand, sci-fi fantasy has been done to death. It's so everywhere you have some fantasy element, even in pseudo hard sci-fi like Star Trek. There are things that aren't really sci-fi but more fantasy. So he giving the example of The Expanse or either Cyberpunk or Blade Runner, I think hard sci-fi would be my choice too. The problem is you're restricting yourself to fact-based building. So you can't simply go, this 20-story high walking machine does work. Yeah, but how does it work? And why isn't it collapsing under its own weight? Or why isn't it sinking into the ground because it weighs 30 tons?
I suppose part of that would come down to once he's got the genre, and assuming he goes forward using this sort of, vote this, or this, depending on which one you want. So vote tutoring for hard sci-fi. And then he might go on to the next bit, and it could be, what scale of game would it be? And at that point you're going, well, I fancy going more for the Blade Runner, single hero fighting a group of scumbags or whatever it happens to be in that respect. Or you could go, well, it's going to be much grander, because if it's just small scale character against character, or even small group of characters, you have less things to worry about, less impact or imposition. It's only if you're going to go, I want to write a rule set that would work for mass battle, then you're really going to run into stuff. Or you might just take the infinity route and just go, well, we're not going to worry about how a tag moves or is powered. They are just a gun dummy, It's find that balance between
the thing that's
style
least
and
appealing
substance.
to me is this alternative history reality, because it feels a bit like a lazy excuse when you say, yeah, we have 1949 and World War II still happening. Yeah, sure, like that has been done to death too.
Yeah.
And there's not much. You simply add some greebly bits to an existing reality, and I wouldn't call that sci-fi of sorts. Even if you go with, if you take this to an extreme and say, okay, the war has going on for 50 years and it's now the year 2020. Well, no.
I do think, things like steampunk and the like do it better, I feel.
And I wonder why he's putting steampunk into sci-fi fantasy, because I think that's rather hard sci-fi. It's a different history, but if you don't overdo it, steampunk could be.
Actually, I didn't even notice the bugger lurking in there. I would have put steampunk into alternative history or reality.
Yeah, but, either that, but you could make it work for hard sci-fi, but it's definitely not valid for sci-fi fantasy, at least not in my book, because steam engines were a thing, and most things are not that far off, I would say. And there was, I can't remember the name, there was an a animated movie where they actually used very extremely compressed steam for powering engines and flying contraptions, which sounded
Dr. Snuggles?
Convincing, but
doesn't ring a bell. I'm going to go with Dr. Snuggles. Go see the Vinegar Mountain Witch.
Not quite. Yeah? I have to look up if I can find it again. It just escapes me now. It's somewhere. I had a phase where I watched a lot of anime. the non-adult version, so not the anime that Justin is watching.
Oh, right, yeah.
The one I could watch when my parents would be in the same room.
Probably didn't leave much.
Not really. Panzerkabot Star Trek is not just cowboys in space. It's space communism with scientific pseudoscience. Firefly
Star Trek was a wagon train. Wasn't that what it was?
I think, yeah, a Trek West. Yeah, but only because of Shatner, Dutch. He was
Shatner.
Did
legend.
I ever tell you I bought the Christmas CD from him?
No, it wouldn't surprise me.
He did a Christmas CD, and it's actually good. It's on a weird scale, but
I think my brother has it. My brother's a big Trek fan and a big Shatner fan. Are you aware of there's an app, which I believe is what you kids download to your phones, and it's called something like Chartreuse. It costs cash money, but it's William Shatner saying words, and then you write your poetry, and then click on it, and then Chartreuse then puts it into Shatner. So you get hard
Spoken
sci-fi.
words.
Yeah, but you can like make the words bigger, so he'll put more emphasis on them, or smaller and stuff. So you can have your poetry read by Shatner the way you want it read.
That's great. The CD I got is Shatner Claus, the Christmas album.
That sounds all kinds of amazing, right there.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy actually did the Hobbit song Dutch. And that if you really are bored or really need something to lighten your mood, look up Leonard Nimoy doing the Hobbit music video on YouTube. It doesn't get more 60s than that.
Oh yeah. Oh, the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins and If I Had a Hammer is another quality song by Leonard Numbnuts. So he did think he was particularly good at singing. I think he just did it because Shatner had a song of his own.
Yeah, but at some time, I don't know when that was, William Shatner was invited to do some speech on a Star Wars meeting. That was a sight to behold. Well, he got on stage and, welcome to our Star Trek, and somebody whispered in it, what? And looked at his script, Star Wars? He played along, and that was fun.
It's the way to do it.
That was still when George Lucas still had the rights to everything. Before the big mouse came.
I don't know if that's better or worse, considering some of the things Lucas did.
History will tell.
Well, yeah.
The mouse has done good things, and it has done some not so good things. But since The Mandalorian, I'm hoping that there will be more good things in the future to come.
It's true.
Maybe some people have some position of power now to say, see, we told you. This is the way.
This is the way. Yeah. It's a beautiful thought. But like everything, it's like any new band exploding onto the scene with that first album that everybody thinks is the best thing in the world ever. And then they've got to follow it up with the difficult second album. And will we get a second series where he's constantly got his hat off and it's just a bit waz?
Or even worse, they sign a contract to some publishing agent and suddenly they are not in control on what they do or not.
It would be terrible.
Prequels done in the same style as Mandalorian, yeah, that would be cool.
With actual real things and not just a big green screen in a box.
I really think this is what the Mandalorian really pulled out, and what made the series actually work. These practical effects.
Yep.
A slight sense of humor, but some sensible amount of violence.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars isn't Star Wars if people aren't getting shot. So it's nice to see Jawas getting disintegrated.
Yeah. Imagine that scene with the Javas being done by any other director. Let's say, what's his name? Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino, blood everywhere.
It would have been a red crawler by the end of the show.
We may get to find this out because I don't know if it's still going ahead, but Quentin had started writing a script for a Star Trek that he was going to direct. So we may get to see a Quentin Tarantino sci-fi.
I don't know if I would want to watch that. To be fair, I have seen some of his works, and I'm not the biggest fan. And I mostly watched it for the video, for the music, because the music was generally quite good.
So yeah, I like his stuff. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Because if he doesn't do Star Trek, I can see him doing his own, because he hasn't done a sci-fi genre yet. He's been working his way through the genres quite steadily. So
I could see him do something like Dune or Alien.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to see a new Dune whenever they release it into the wild with Denis Villeneuve. But Alien would be good because it would mean Dipshit doesn't have his hands all over it. And let's face it, Prometheus and Covenant suck the sweat off a dead man's balls, if I may borrow a phrase from Good Morning Vietnam. I have no idea what that means, but I don't think it's complimentary.
I don't think so too. I just had what are your thoughts on the upcoming movie Bill and Ted? I'm a bit scared on that.
You know, I think it's nice that Alex Winters has been allowed out from wherever they've been keeping him since he did Freaks. As far as I remember, his career trajectory was Bill and Ted, Lost Boys, Bill and Ted, nothing for about 10 years, starred/directed Freaks, then disappeared up his own backside again for the last 20. So presumably Kininu found him going through his bins looking for something to eat.
He was living in his pool house.
So yeah, well, you know, we'll say that the trailer looks good.
I was about to say. I've seen the trailer and I like this, the intro part. You played before 30 billion people, and last time you played for 20 people, where most of them were there for free drinks or something.
Yeah.
Where's the Earth Uniting song you promised?
I think it could go well. They never took themselves particularly seriously, so I have hopes. Like that in the Ghostbusters film. The trailer ticks all the right buttons, so we'll see.
Yeah, it did a bit of a chill down my spine when the when Actor 1 was going around corners again and doors flying.
Doors flying open.
And I especially like the quasi-innocent child completely overwhelmed by, oh, this is a trap and this is the actual laser.
Oh, it's the teacher. Whenever he's lifted up going, oh, cool replica. Replica what? What do you mean, replica what? It's a ghost trap. You know.
What?
So
and then everything goes off the rails.
So I'll be interested. I don't know whether or not any of the original Ghostbusters are going to be back or if they're just going to be named only.
As far as I have heard...
Imagine Egon won't be back.
No, the living cast are going to appear in some shape or form on the movie. They have been confirmed on set, so...
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Depends
I suppose
on how they use it. If they come in...
If they wanted to do it... Because bear in mind, they had to force Bill Murray to show up to that thingy thing.
Yeah.
The 2016... No, it's not
Female
reboot.
version.
Don't even know what it was. Nobody knows what the fuck it was. They didn't know what it was. So yeah, nobody looked like they wanted to be there.
No, I think if the remaining living cast of the original two movies is appearing, it would be best suited for something like a final scene, some passing of torch of sort.
Yeah.
So nothing giving advice beforehand or something, but just when everything is calming down and the kids drive the Actor 1 back into the barn, then suddenly these three old guys come out of the shadows and, well, you've done well, you're now the Ghostbusters. We go off to Hawaii.
Yep. And at least Egon's collection of molds, spores, and funguses was on display.
Well, such a gentle nod that really... Oh,
beautiful.
yes.
Absolutely beautiful. So yeah,
it's just nice.
There's something they could do if they want to do alternative reality game. Do a Ghostbusters game.
Well, maybe we should put this as a suggestion in this project.
I'm just going back to change from tutoring to alternative reality history. Write a Ghostbusters game.
And make it a good one.
Yep.
But this just shows you can make good sequels if you are aware of your source material and don't slaughter it, like so many others did. But then again,
that's key.
new generations, new kids. And remember, if somebody asks you, "Are you a god?" You answer,
say,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the word is industry, in this case, Dutch.
Yeah, the problem I have with remakes is they tend to remake things that were good, and then people always compare them to those, and they've got a mountain to climb. What they should be doing is looking for something that had a really good story or a good premise, but then the execution was shite, and remake them.
Or maybe something that had an open end to get a conclusion on it. Or even if something was a closed story, you can join stories in the same universe, but you don't always have to regurgitate everything that has been before.
Yeah.
And just look at Terminator. The first two were good, and after that it was just a mess, in my opinion.
A terrible, terrible, shoddy mess.
Yeah, the last one I didn't even care to look at, because the story was so all over the place, even with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton in it.
No, I never bothered.
I saw the trailer, I saw the second trailer, and I thought, yeah, no.
I did watch a remake of a Dario Argento horror recently called Suspiria, and the original is just batshit insane. With it's insane. It's good, but it's insane. It doesn't seem to really have a coherent thread. It's an Argento film. You're just watching things happen. And this, while it had theoretically the same storyline, actually had a storyline set during the in Berlin during the Baader-Meinhof kidnappings, hijackings.
So subtle additions to the storyline to make it a storyline.
Yeah. So it can be done. It can be done well. They can remake good films, but in that case, they just went a different direction. Main threads were there, but just changed it.
I just had I don't know where this came from, but I was just thinking about RoboJocks. That could use a sequel or a redo.
Could it though?
Yes, and we need it in the style of Iron Sky.
Oh yeah, no, actually yeah. When you put it like that.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
No.
Just put some stop motion animation, big fighting robots in the desert, and
You know what's crying out for a reboot or remake? Suburban Sasquatch.
under one condition. You're playing the Sasquatch.
Oh yeah, that's fine. As long as I get to have that massive heavy dong swinging around as well.
We make Justin to saw you the costume with the extra long dong.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. That or he can be the guy with the poodle.
Deadly, what do you mean Galactica wasn't good for the first time round? The original series was great. I loved it to bits.
The original series was amazing.
Yeah, I love the Starbucks.
Yep.
Starbuck, the
Dirk
face from
Benedict.
A-Team, was just such a lovely character.
But again, whenever they remade that, it's a very different feel. Yes, theoretically, Cylons are attacking them in Galactica, but it's more about the people, and there's casino ships that they're flying between. The original and the remake, very, very different feels, even though the storyline is essentially the same. And of course, we get a monkey squeezed into a robo dog thing for fucking Zappy or whatever it was called. Moffy?
Moffy, I think. I think the most the thing that annoyed me the most on the reboot of Galactica was actually the design of the Cylons. I think I would have the storyline of the new series, even the character changes, was totally valid, and I was fine with it. But the redesign of the end of the Silence was something I wasn't happy with, because just this one red eye on the silver shiny Centurion was missing.
Yeah, you needed that sort of womp kit look, bouncing back and forward.
And this over evil Baltar fiend just was missing in the reboot. The paranoia version of nobody knows who's a Cylon or not was all good and dandy, but in the original series, having that one major enemy that is hunting down the last humans was nice.
Yeah.
But I'm a simple mind. I need my black and white.
So there's a lot to be said for it. See, Lawner's talking about The Last Starfighter.
Oh, great movie.
Do you know they're attempting to reboot that?
I think they have done that for years now.
They were working on something last year, but I don't know if it ever went anywhere. But yeah, Starlight, Starbright.
Starfighter is one of the first movies actually incorporating computer animations, and I think to this day they have done a fucking good job. Especially if you come to think that they didn't see what they were creating. They did the maths before, render it for days, and then had to watch what came out of it.
And then sit back and worry about how Death Blossom is going to work when Greg gets
Blossom.
in there. Go on, Greg!
Great. Awesome. Kill them all.
Thankfully, he was working on Death Blossom when the hangar went up.
What
with
a
all the other
coincidence.
starfighters. Oh, Greg.
And the new guy gets into the one ship that is equipped with this ultimate kill weapon.
Yeah, well, it's the only ship they had left. So, oops.
Yeah,
oopsie.
The scariest part of that movie was when he when his guardian took out his eyes for the first time on the flight to the base. As a child, that generally scared me for a few seconds.
Just taking them out to polish them before he pops them back in again.
But he looks over his shoulder, and that was the point where he oh God, he has no eyes.
Oh,
How can he see?
Centauri. You wastrel. He's not dead.
And speaking
Stop
of old sci-fi
thinking
movies,
so.
I usually not very fond of German movies, but there is one that I really like, and now the name escapes me. Where two battleship pilots crash and get to know each other, and the one looks like Lizard.
This Enemy Mine?
Yes, Enemy Mine.
Which is a remake of a World War II film with Lee Marvin, where him and a Japanese pilot are on an island together, which I think is Hell in the Pacific, is it? Possibly.
I'm pretty sure that's directed by a German. I have to look it up now.
I'll have to look up and see what the Japanese Lee Marvin one is. Dun, 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 dun.
Directed by Wolfgang Petersen. You can't get much more German.
There you go. A West German / American production.
Same as
those are words that are not said often.
No, that's that's a movie I loved. Enemy Mine.
Lee Marvin. It was Hell in the Pacific. I was right. That's okay.
And it's one of those movies where I think Dennis Quaid really shines as an actor. Because, okay, I loved him in the, what was the other one where he got shrunk? How was that called?
Inner Space.
Yeah, that was a humorous movie, but he didn't really do much acting there.
Yeah, Martin Short, whatever, spent a lot of time gumming around because he was inside him.
But Enemy Mine was a movie that impressed me.
I've not seen that in years.
The Witch. 1, 2, 3, The Witch.
It can say it's based on a book and not a movie. all at once. But I always think of Enemy Mine being based on the Lee Marvin film because, it predates
Maybe
it.
the book has been inspired by the movie.
It's entirely possible they decided to take a sci-fi movie and turn it into a World War II version because it just plays like a stage play anyway. It's two people on a very small island just interacting with each other.
And if you ignore the part where the alien gets pregnant, you
Yeah.
could fit it on any time scale.
Oh, I don't know. Lee Marvin impregnating a Japanese warrior. That would have been worth watching.
A pregnant female Japanese warrior.
Oh, no,
happening to
male.
No.
It was at that point they realized the war must end now.
I think if you have a pregnant male Japanese warrior, this would be the kind of reboot for not going well. Yeah, das Boot von the same. One of the few German movies actually I like. Wolfgang Petersen does The Boat and Der Seewolf. I think we've talked about that in the past.
Makes sense.
Yes. We are coming to nearly 2.5 hours.
Oh dear.
Having had that call about a few minutes ago, I know I'm way over my head in work tomorrow, so I'm just calling it a day.
It's a good way to do it.
Everybody in the chat who has been here, I thank Jerry to be here. If you want to rewatch any of these content, the video will be here on Twitch and on YouTube later. These projects are all on tabletop.com, so go and look at them, vote as you can, and I will read some of you tomorrow and the others later. Jerry, thank you for being here. I say
Cheers.
goodbye. Jerry, say goodbye.
Bye.